The message came on a quiet Tuesday morning. Captain Alan Wright stood on the bridge of the Earth defense ship Valor, watching as the alien ambassador's face filled the main screen. The blue-skinned Zelnian looked nervous, his four eyes blinking rapidly. "We have detected a gamma-ray burst heading toward this sector. The Council has ordered full evacuation. All species must move to the safe zone immediately." Alan frowned. "How much time do we have?" 5 months, perhaps 6. Not enough to move your entire population with your current technology. That was 3 weeks ago. Now Alan watched from orbit as the last alien ships prepared to leave Earth's atmosphere. The United Galactic Council had promised help, but when the evacuation began, Earth received only a token effort. Barely 50 million humans had secured passage on alien vessels, mostly politicians, the very wealthy, and a small number of randomly selected families. "Captain, incoming transmission from Planetary Command," said Linda Coleman, his communications officer. The tired face of Dr. Olivia Wright, his wife and Earth's leading physicist, appeared on screen. The dark circles under her eyes showed she hadn't slept in days. "Alan, the last alien embassy is closing. Ambassador Trelkan is requesting permission to depart." Alan clenched his jaw. "And what about the evacuation ships they promised?" Olivia shook her head. "They're not coming. The Council claims they need all available ships to evacuate the Proxima colonies." "That's a lie, and you know it," Alan said, his voice low with anger. "The Proxima colonies have less than 1 million people. They're leaving us behind. Live." "I know." She looked down at her tablet, then back up with a hint of determination in her eyes. "But I found something in the Zoraxian data they shared with us. I think there might be a way to shield ourselves from the worst of the radiation." From the viewport of the Valor, Alan could see the massive alien ships rising from Earth's surface. Each one could carry hundreds of thousands of people, yet they left mostly empty. 8 billion humans remained on Earth, with only a handful of ships of their own to attempt escape. "Director Powell is on the line for you both," Linda interrupted. The screen split to show Samantha Powell, the newly appointed head of the Human Survival Initiative. Her gray hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her expression grim but determined. "Captain Wright, Dr. Wright, I've just spoken with the President. The aliens are abandoning us. But we're not giving up. We're implementing Operation Sanctuary immediately." Alan nodded. "My ships are ready to assist." "Good," Powell said. "Dr. Wright, your team will have full resources. If there's any chance your shield theory works, we need to pursue it." The ship trembled slightly as a massive alien vessel passed nearby, its engines glowing blue against the blackness of space. Alan watched it go with mixed feelings of betrayal and resolve. "The Zoraxian ambassador left something for us," Olivia said. "Technical data about crystal formations that can redirect certain types of radiation. They weren't supposed to share this technology, but I think some of them didn't agree with the Council's decision." Outside, the last alien ships were entering hyperspace, disappearing in flashes of light. Earth now stood alone. "Captain," called out Richard Garcia, his second in command, "we're picking up a transmission from the moon. The aliens abandoned their base there completely. It's intact." For the first time that day, Alan felt a spark of hope. "Tell Commander Garcia to assemble a team. That base might have resources we can use." Olivia's eyes widened on the screen. "If they left their technology behind, then we might have a fighting chance," Powell finished. Alan looked back at the Earth below, blue and beautiful and unaware of what was coming. Most people down there still didn't know they'd been abandoned by the galactic community. That realization would hurt, but Alan knew something about humans. They fought hardest when their backs were against the wall. "The aliens think we're as good as dead," he said quietly. "Let's prove them wrong." The next 4 months passed in a blur of activity. Across the planet, humans worked together like never before. The threat of extinction had erased old conflicts. Countries that once aimed weapons at each other now shared resources and technology. Commander Richard Garcia stepped onto the dusty surface of the moon, his boots leaving clear prints next to the abandoned alien structures. The Galactic Council's lunar embassy was massive, a dome nearly a mile wide that gleamed silver under the harsh sunlight. "Careful with those containers," he called to his team as they unloaded equipment from their shuttle. "The crystals Dr. Wright needs are extremely fragile." Inside the dome, the air was surprisingly fresh. The aliens had left in such a hurry that many systems were still running. Lights came on automatically as Garcia's team moved deeper into the complex. "Sir, you need to see this," called Lisa Dawson, one of his engineers. She stood before a large door that had slid open to reveal a room filled with humming machinery. "What is it?" Garcia asked, stepping carefully into the room. "I think it's their shield generator," Lisa said, her eyes wide with excitement. "And it's still operational." Back on Earth, Dr. Olivia Wright leaned over her workbench, carefully aligning two Zoraxian crystals. When they touched, they glowed with an inner blue light. Her assistant, Ben Franklin, took notes as she recorded the energy readings. "The crystals amplify each other," she explained. "If we can create a network of these around the planet, they might bend enough of the gamma radiation away from us." The door to her lab slid open, and Director Samantha Powell walked in. Despite the enormous pressure, the older woman remained composed, though new lines had appeared on her face in recent weeks. "How's it going, Olivia?" "We're making progress," Olivia said, straightening up from her work. "But we need more crystals. The Zoraxians didn't leave us nearly enough." Powell nodded. "That's why I'm here." Garcia's team found something on the moon. A lot of something, actually. She handed Olivia a tablet showing images of a vast chamber filled with glowing blue crystals, hundreds of them, exactly what they needed. In orbit above Earth, Captain Alan Wright supervised the conversion of civilian ships into emergency evacuation vessels. They couldn't save everyone, but they could get millions to the far side of Mars, where the planet itself might provide some shielding from the radiation. "The resilience reports they're ready for testing," said Linda Coleman from her station. "That's 15 ships now equipped with the basic shields." Alan nodded, but his thoughts were with Olivia on the surface. They hadn't seen each other in person for weeks. Both were too busy trying to save what they could of humanity. His screen beeped with an incoming message. To his surprise, it was Ben Franklin from Olivia's lab. "Captain Wright, Dr. Wright asked me to send you this right away." The young man's face was flushed with excitement. "We've successfully linked 7 crystals together in a network. The energy deflection is working." For the first time in months, Alan allowed himself to feel a spark of hope. Underground, the shelters were almost ready. What had once been subways, mines, and military bunkers were now connected into vast networks that could house millions. People moved in with whatever they could carry, leaving homes and possessions behind. On the moon, Garcia stood in the control room of the alien base, watching as his team activated more systems. "Commander," called out Lisa, "I found something in their database. It's a message. I think it was left specifically for humans." Garcia moved quickly to her side. "Can you translate it?" "Working on it now, sir." Her fingers moved across the alien console. "It's from Ambassador Krell of the Zoraxians. It says, 'We could not openly defy the Council, but we did not agree with their decision. What we leave behind may help you survive. The crystals are the key.'" Garcia's communicator beeped. It was Director Powell. "Commander, how soon can you get those crystals to Earth?" "Dr. Wright believes she can have a planetary shield operational within weeks if she has enough material." Garcia looked at the vast chamber of crystals through the window and smiled grimly. "Tell Dr. Wright she'll have what she needs. We're not going down without a fight." The day had finally come. Instruments across the solar system detected the approaching gamma-ray burst, a wall of deadly radiation moving at the speed of light. There was no more time for preparation. Captain Alan Wright stood on the bridge of the Resilience, Earth's largest defense ship. From orbit, he could see the blue glow of the crystal shield network that now encircled the planet. Over 5,000 crystals had been positioned in a careful pattern, all connected to the central control station where Olivia worked. "All ships report ready, Captain," said Linda Coleman. Her usual calm voice carried a hint of fear. "Maintain positions," Alan ordered. "We'll provide additional data to the surface teams." The Resilience and 14 other ships formed a ring around Earth, each equipped with sensors to monitor the approaching wave. They couldn't escape the radiation, but their data might help those on the surface. In the underground command center, Dr. Olivia Wright watched the final countdown on the main screen. Around her, 50 scientists and engineers monitored different aspects of the shield system. Director Powell stood beside her, both women tense with the weight of responsibility. "Shield network at full power," Ben Franklin reported from his station. "All crystals responding." Olivia nodded. "Begin the rotation sequence." On screens around the room, they could see the blue glow intensify as the crystals began moving in their calculated pattern. The shield wasn't meant to block the radiation entirely. That would be impossible. Instead, it would bend and redirect the worst of it. 3 minutes to impact, someone called out. Director Powell pressed a button on the console. "Attention all shelters. Final lockdown procedures now. May God be with us all." Across the planet, billions of people huddled in underground shelters. Families held each other close. Children too young to understand asked why they couldn't go outside. Parents tried to hide their fear with brave smiles. On the moon base, Commander Garcia and his team watched from what they hoped was the safety of the alien structure. The strange metal of the dome had properties they didn't fully understand, but they believed it would provide some protection. "1 minute," Lisa Dawson said quietly, her eyes fixed on the displays. Garcia nodded and thought of his family in a shelter beneath Denver. "Start recording all data streams. Whatever happens, we need to document this." In orbit, Alan gripped the arms of his command chair. "All personnel, brace for impact." Through the viewports, space itself seemed to shimmer as the invisible wave approached. The sensors began screaming warnings as radiation levels climbed beyond anything their instruments were designed to measure. "Shield status," Alan called to his crew. "Holding at 60% capacity," someone reported. Then, "Wait, 50%, 40. Below on Earth, Olivia watched in horror as dozens of crystal nodes began failing under the strain. The beautiful blue network was developing holes as crystals overloaded and shattered. "Reroute power through sectors 7 through 15, she ordered. "We need to maintain coverage over the major population centers." The room shook as the first waves of radiation struck the atmosphere. Despite the thick layers of rock and metal protecting them, their instruments flickered. "Shield coverage down to 30%. Ben called out, his voice tight. "Major failures in the Asian and European sectors." Director Powell's face was grim. "How many shelters are exposed?" Before Olivia could answer, a blinding white light filled all their screens, then went black. The room plunged into darkness before emergency lights flickered on. For a long, terrible moment, there was silence. Then, slowly, systems began coming back online. Damage reports flooded in. The picture they painted was devastating. Millions dead in areas where the shields had failed completely. Vast regions of Earth's surface were now barren wastelands. But not everyone was gone. "We're getting signals from shelters on all continents," Ben reported, his voice filled with disbelief. "There are survivors, a lot of them." In orbit, the Resilience had suffered heavy damage. Half the bridge crew lay unconscious at their stations. But as Alan pulled himself back to his feet, bleeding from a cut on his forehead, he could see Earth still spinning below. "Send signals to all shelters," he ordered. Tell them we made it." 2 years passed. The world that emerged from the shelters was not the same one that had gone in. Where once stood great cities, now lay fields of glass and ash. The oceans had turned a strange purple color near the coasts. Yet somehow, life continued. Dr. Olivia Wright stood on a hill overlooking what had once been Boston. The city was gone, but already Small prefabricated buildings dotted the landscape. People moved about, working to rebuild what they had lost. "The soil tests came back," said Ben Franklin, approaching with a tablet in hand. In the 2 years since the radiation wave, he had changed. A scar ran down the left side of his face, and his once dark hair now had streaks of white. "We can start planting in the northern sectors next month." Olivia nodded. "That's good news. The hydroponic farms can't feed everyone forever." A small aircraft landed nearby, kicking up dust. Captain Alan Wright, now General Wright, stepped out. The reunion between husband and wife was brief but warm. They had learned to treasure every moment together. The Mars colony made contact, Alan said as they walked toward the research center. They survived with minimal damage. Nearly 50,000 people safe. And the Europa station, also intact. The ice protected them. They entered the main lab where scientists studied the effects of the radiation. What they had discovered in the months after emerging from the shelters had shocked everyone. "Show him," Olivia said to Ben. Ben pressed a button, and a screen lit up showing cellular images. "These are normal human cells," he explained, pointing to one side. "And these are from the people who were closest to the crystal nodes during the wave." The difference was clear. The second group of cells showed unusual structures, glowing faintly blue. "We're calling it the crystal effect," Olivia said. "About 15% of survivors show these changes. They heal faster, get sick less often. Some even show increased strength and endurance." Alan frowned. "Is it dangerous?" "Not that we can tell. In fact, it seems beneficial. And it's stable. These changes are being passed to children born after the wave." Their conversation was interrupted by a call from the communications center. Director Powell's face appeared on the screen. "General, Doctor, you need to come to the moon base immediately. Commander Garcia has found something in the alien data cores." The trip to the moon took only hours in the new shuttles built using recovered alien technology. The lunar base had expanded significantly, now housing over 1,000 people. Commander Garcia, now head of Earth's new Space Command, met them in a room filled with alien computer terminals. "We finally cracked their encryption," he said without preamble. "The Galactic Council knew more than they told us." He activated a holographic display showing a report with alien symbols. "This is their assessment of Earth's chances of survival," Garcia explained. "They calculated we had less than a 0.01% chance of making it through the radiation wave. They left us to die," Alan said quietly. "There's more." Garcia changed the display. "This is from their historical database. Humans aren't the first species they've abandoned. There were others, over thousands of years. None survived." Olivia studied the data. "We're the first." "That's not all," Garcia continued. "The crystal technology, it wasn't just for shielding. The Zoraxians engineered it specifically to interact with human biology. They knew what might happen." Director Powell, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "They'd wanted us to change, to become something new." "But why?" asked Alan. Before anyone could answer, the alarm sounded. All eyes turned to the main view screen, where a technician's face appeared, her expression urgent. "Commander, we're detecting multiple objects entering the solar system. They're moving fast, using technology similar to the Council ships." Garcia turned to the others, his face grim. "They're coming back." 7 years after the gamma-ray burst, Earth looked very different. Green had returned to many areas. New cities had risen, built with materials that could withstand radiation. The human population had stabilized at just under 3 billion, far fewer than before, but growing steadily. General Alan Wright stood on the bridge of the Defiance, Earth's first true battleship. Around him, officers monitored the approaching alien vessels. 6 ships, each larger than anything humans had built, moved slowly toward Earth. "All defense platforms report ready," said Linda Coleman, now his second in command. The years had hardened her, like all survivors. "Let's hope we don't need them," Ellen replied. Open a channel. The main screen flickered to life, showing an alien with purple skin and 4 eyes. Alan recognized the species. A Viridian, one of the leaders in the Galactic Council. This is General Alan Wright of Earth Defense Force. State your purpose. The alien blinked slowly. I am Ambassador Krell of the United Galactic Council. We have returned to assess the damage. Alan's jaw tightened. The damage you left us to face alone, you mean? The alien's expression was unreadable. We wish to send a delegation to your planet. There is much to discuss. Hours later, in the new Global Council chamber in Geneva, Alan stood with Olivia, Director Powell, and Commander Garcia as the alien delegation entered. Ambassador Krell led 5 other aliens, each from a different species. Their expression showed shock as they looked around at the rebuilt human city. Impossible, one of them whispered. The models showed total extinction. Director Powell stepped forward, her back straight despite her advancing years. As you can see, we survived. No thanks to you. Ambassador Krell's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. You misunderstand. The Council truly believed no species could survive such radiation. We evacuated to save what life we could. And yet you left us behind, Garcia said coldly. We had limited resources, another alien responded, this one with blue scales. Difficult choices had to be made. Olivia, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. You should see our new shield technology. We've improved on the Zoraxian design. She activated a small device, and a holographic display appeared, showing Earth surrounded by a complex network of energy patterns. Impossible, the blue alien said. That technology is beyond your development level. Not anymore, Olivia replied. We had good teachers, even if they left in a hurry. As the meeting continued, Garcia pulled Alan aside, showing him a small data pad. We intercepted their communications. They're scared of us, Alan. They didn't expect to find humans not only alive but thriving. The diplomatic talks went on for hours. The aliens offered technology, resources, and aid, things they had withheld 7 years ago, when humans truly needed them. Finally, Alan had enough. Why are you really here? The truth this time. Ambassador Krell looked at the other aliens, then back at the humans. We detected unusual energy signatures from your planet. Energy that should not be possible with your technology. And reports of changes in your people. The crystal effect, Olivia said. You knew this would happen, didn't you? The Zoraxians left those crystals for a reason. For the first time, the ambassador looked uncomfortable. What do you know of the Zoraxians' intentions? Enough to know they weren't as heartless as the rest of you, Garcia said. Director Powell stepped forward. If you want to rebuild relations with humanity, there must be conditions. First, Earth demands full membership in the Galactic Council. Second, you will share all technology that could help us rebuild our world. The aliens looked shocked at these demands. And third, Powell continued, you will tell us the truth about why you really abandoned us. For a long moment, Ambassador Krell was silent. Then he looked directly at Olivia. The truth is more complicated than you imagine. And it begins with a prophecy that is thousands of years old. A prophecy about humans and what they might become if they survived what no species should be able to survive. The room fell silent as humans and aliens stared at each other, the weight of 7 years of abandonment hanging between them. The diplomatic chamber was silent as Ambassador Krell began to explain. The other aliens looked uncomfortable, as if they didn't want this truth revealed. 10,000 years ago, before humans even built their first cities, the oldest species in our council received a prophecy. It spoke of a young race who would face the fire of the cosmos and emerge stronger. This race would either unite the galaxy or conquer it. Director Powell's eyes narrowed. And you decided this race was humans. Not at first, Krell admitted. But when we discovered your species, your resilience was concerning. Humans adapt faster than any species we have encountered. You thrive in environments that would kill others. You survived wars that should have destroyed you. So you left us to die, Alan said, his voice hard with anger. Some council members saw it as a test. Krell replied. If you could not survive the gamma-ray burst, the prophecy was not about you. If you did survive. He left the sentence unfinished. Olivia stepped forward. And the Zoraxians, they seem to help us. The Zoraxians are complicated. They believe in balance. They thought if humans were to survive and fulfill the prophecy, it should be on fair terms. As they spoke, Ben Franklin entered the room, his face urgent. He whispered something to Olivia, whose eyes widened. "We need to show you something," she said to the aliens. "Follow me." They moved to the research wing of the building. Inside a secure lab, screens showed detailed genetic information. These are the changes we've detected in humans who were exposed to the crystal radiation, Olivia explained. The crystal effect isn't random. It's following a specific pattern, like it was programmed. Impossible, said the blue-scaled alien. Those crystals were not designed to affect biology. But they were, Garcia interrupted. He activated a screen showing information from the alien data cores they had recovered. The Zoraxians modified the crystals specifically to interact with human DNA. They knew exactly what would happen. Ambassador Krell looked genuinely shocked. This was not authorized by the Council. I think that was the point, Alan said. Outside the building, a crowd had gathered as news spread of the aliens' return. Many were angry, wanting justice for the abandonment. Others were curious about what this meant for Earth's future. Back in the meeting room, Director Powell faced the alien delegation. The gamma-ray burst was never as dangerous as you claimed, was it? She asked directly. After a moment, Krell nodded slowly. It was severe, but our models showed that with proper preparation, up to 30% of your population might have survived naturally. With our help, it could have been 60% or more. The humans exchanged glances, their worst suspicions confirmed. We demand reparations, Powell said firmly, and full membership in your council. The council will resist, Krell warned. Many members still fear what humans might become. They should, Garcia said quietly. As they spoke, alarms suddenly blared throughout the building. Linda Coleman rushed into the room. General, we're detecting more ships entering the system. A lot more. On the main screen, dozens of new vessels appeared, representing many different alien designs. Some were clearly military. What is this? Alan demanded, turning to Krell. Not our doing. The ambassador insisted, looking genuinely concerned. But I suspect news of your survival has spread. Some will be curious, others fearful. Olivia studied the readings on her tablet. Some of these ships match Zoraxian design patterns. The factions are aligning, Krell explained. Those who believe humans should join the galactic community, and those who still see you as a threat. Alan turned to Powell. We should activate the defense network. Powell nodded, then faced the alien ambassador. It seems your council has a decision to make. Stand with us, or against us. As if in answer, one of the alien ships fired upon another, and the sky above Earth lit up with the first shots of what would become a galactic conflict, with humanity caught in the middle. 20 years had passed since humans discovered they were not alone in the universe. 20 years since being abandoned to die. Now, the species that had been left behind had become one that others looked to for leadership. Admiral Alan Wright stood on the observation deck of the Star Station Unity, the massive space station that orbited Earth. Below him, the planet looked healthy again, its continents green, its cities gleaming. Behind him stood representatives from 32 alien species, all members of the new Galactic Alliance. The Zoraxian delegation has arrived, announced Linda Coleman, now his chief diplomat. She had traded her military uniform for the blue robes of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. Alan nodded. Show them in. The Diraxians were new to galactic politics, a species only recently discovered. Like humans 20 years ago, they had been judged too primitive to join the old council. Now they came to humans for protection and guidance. The brief war that had started on the day of the aliens' return had changed everything. When some council species attacked Earth, the Diraxians and a few other sympathetic races had stood with humanity. The conflict lasted only months, but it shattered the old power structure completely. In a large meeting chamber, Dr. Olivia Wright presented her latest findings to the assembled aliens. At 70, her hair was completely white now, but her mind remained sharp. The crystal effect continues to spread through the human population, she explained. 80% of humans now carry some form of the enhanced genes. Our children are being born stronger, healthier, and with remarkable abilities to adapt to different environments. A blue-skinned Diraxian nodded with approval, just as we hoped when we modified the crystals. In another part of the station, Commander Richard Garcia, now Ambassador Gregory Nelson, prepared for his address to the Galactic Assembly. After the war, he had changed his name to honor his grandfather and taken on a diplomatic role. The Human Resilience Doctrine is ready for presentation, his assistant told him. Gregory nodded. Let's hope they're ready to hear it. The doctrine was revolutionary. It established that no species would ever again be abandoned in times of crisis. It created mutual aid protocols and required advanced species to share certain technologies with younger ones. It was everything humans had been denied. Director Samantha Powell, now in her final years, watched from her wheelchair as Gregory presented the doctrine to the assembly. At 93, she had lived to see humanity rise from near extinction to become guardians of galactic cooperation. Her eyes filled with tears of pride. The vote is unanimous, announced the assembly leader, a Viridian who had once been skeptical of humans. The Human Resilience Doctrine is now galactic law. Later that day, Alan and Olivia stood together in their private quarters, looking out at the stars. Did you ever imagine this? Olivia asked, leaning against him. When they left us behind, did you think we'd end up here? Alan smiled and shook his head. Never. I just wanted us to survive. And now everyone wants our protection. She laughed softly. The species they abandoned is the one they now depend on. Their moment was interrupted by an urgent message. Ben Franklin, now the head of Earth's Science Division, appeared on the screen. Admiral, Doctor, we've detected something at the edge of the galaxy. Something big. The images showed a dark mass moving slowly toward the galaxy, larger than anything they had ever seen. What is it? Alan asked. We don't know, Ben replied. But it's giving off energy readings similar to the gamma-ray burst, only thousands of times stronger. The old council would have evacuated immediately. Alan and Olivia exchanged looks. 20 years ago, they had faced extinction and survived. The experience had transformed humanity from victims to leaders. Alert the Alliance, Alan said firmly. We're not running, and we're not leaving anyone behind. This time, we face it together. As the alert went out, ships from dozens of species began moving into defensive positions. The species that had once abandoned humans now followed their lead, united against a common threat. The prophecy had come true, but not as the old council had feared. Humans hadn't conquered the galaxy, they had united it.